That's exactly what's happening. I don't understand why that's some inappropriate fear. There's 2 points of control that we thought would be appropriate on TikTok. If we really in this country believe all of the hype and all of the fervor over privacy, then why wouldn't we want to make sure that the data that our Americans are putting into this app is staying in the US and there's some control over privacy, right? Isn't that the whole reason everyone's so annoyed at Facebook and Google and all these data privacy, right? We did this video about TikTok and how when ByteDance bought Musical.ly and then turned it into TikTok, now that is being reviewed by the government, that acquisition. The guidance in the video was accurate and that there's not necessarily something wrong with tech protectionism. And so our friend Ben Thompson over at Stratechery, his article, I think this came out today, also echoes this point. He does a good job of analyzing this New York Times article where they are giving a very praiseworthy review of TikTok, basically saying, but to some people in the United States government, TikTok is a menace. And one big reason is the nationality of its owner. ByteDance is a Chinese company. Fears that TikTok is exposing America's youth to Communist Party indoctrination and smuggling their data to Beijing servers. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. I don't understand why that's some inappropriate fear. It's actually happening, and there's plenty of proof that it's happening. Washington at this moment is suspicious of Chinese tech companies to a degree that can feel like paranoia. There's 2 points of control that we thought would be appropriate on TikTok. One is to say your data needs to be stored in the United States and that you can put monitoring around, is the data going back to China or not? And then the other one is that the teams and the people in TikTok, CEO, the executives are all based in the United States. And the reason why is because what you don't want to have happen is you don't want to have TikTok to be regulating content and what Ben Thompson talks about here is that TikTok was censoring Houston Rockets videos. We've spoken in the past about how TikTok has censored out content about Hong Kong, talking about President Xi and many other things. And so if you have the data localization and data stored here, you can start to review that more closely and make sure, A, that's not happening, B, that the data isn't going back into a Chinese server, where you could have, from a national security standpoint, I think the US government's point is that you could have officials that are using TikTok and don't know, and they're in the government, and you could have some secrets going to the Chinese government.
The TikTok CEO, I think, was asked this week in an interview, if Xi Jinping asked you to look into something and give him some data, what would you say? And he said, no, I wouldn't do that. I would tell Xi Jinping no. And as Benedict Evans, the VC at Andreessen Horowitz, mentioned this in his newsletter, and he said it's unfortunate because everyone knows that's a lie.
Yeah, and your family will go to jail.
You would stop operating as a company and go to jail.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the other thing. If we really in this country believe all of the hype and all of the fervor over privacy and all of the wrongdoing that Facebook and Google and all these big US tech monopolies have done to the average consumer in the United States, then why wouldn't we want to make sure that the data that our Americans are putting into this app is staying in the US and there's some control over privacy, right? Isn't that the whole reason everyone's so annoyed at Facebook and Google and all these data privacy, right? And then that it's being exploited by foreign powers to interfere with our elections, and and then if you don't put any controls over this, it's not like it's a small company; it's a multi-billion-dollar company. It's not like you need to impose this regulation on every single foreign tech company operating in the United States. This has come up specifically because they made this acquisition. If anyone in the political spectrum and the media spectrum really cares about privacy, then you would absolutely say data localization and data storage for TikTok is bare bones, not that big of a deal.
Right.
And then if you want to be able to enforce that stuff, you need the executives in the United States, because in case they break it, if they're living in China, you have no recourse to actually enforce any of this, including them censoring people's posts to be privy to what President Xi wants.
There were some leaked internal documents and things at TikTok
we covered
this
those.
week. Yeah, about how they're trying to distance themselves. How they're trying to distance themselves from China and concerned about, like, is this going to hurt our growth? I think the challenge is that they also think it's not really possible for them to do that fully as a Chinese-based company. So it's can't split the baby in half, so to speak.
Yeah, and the last point on TikTok, you could roll this thing one over to Grindr.
Right. The concern with that is basically they would take the data on that people's private lives and use that to basically bribe government officials. So that was the concern there. I think politicians were certainly concerned if they thought it hit them close to home. I think TikTok is more focused on children. So maybe there's one remove.
So they have to sell this by June 2020.
I think it's definitely a data privacy issue that I would be paying attention to if I were in Washington.
Yeah. And I don't think it's unreasonable. Tech protectionism is something that China has used very, very well. And it's helped China. And it's done a very good job.
Right.
So what China's done in terms of tech protectionism and the idea of forcing Grindr to be sold back to a U.S. entity or a non-Chinese entity, or to put some light rules around TikTok data storage. I mean, this is China here in tech protectionism, and this is the U.S. down here. They are completely worlds apart in terms of how these things have operated. So a little bit of it, I actually think, A, would help the United States from a competition standpoint. Nothing wrong with being a little selfish. And B, would actually help enforce all the privacy concerns that this country has been so focused on for the past few years. Hi, this is Alex from Winner Take All. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the content. Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions, and definitely make sure to join us on our next live stream.